So last weekend I spent a couple of days at the photography and video show at the NEC in Birmingham. 2 years since I last went in 2024, and it was great to be back. The show was very busy on the Saturday morning, or certainly at the opening. The queue to get in was very busy. It was a good buzz getting in. Slightly quieter on the Sunday, but that's probably to be expected. Lazy Sunday morning. Overall, impressions of the show, speakers as ever were excellent. Charlie Waite was probably a highlight, and on the Sunday I was actually brave enough to speak to Charlie on the Light and Land stand. Just thanked him for the talk that he gave on the Saturday, but also asked him around the future of landscape photographer of the year. And he basically said it was grounded because they don't have a sponsor. So if they have a sponsor, then maybe it'd make a return. So I think that's a bit of a shame. But it was good to sort of understand where we were with landscape photographer of the year. Other speakers that were really fantastic. Lowry gave a talk on bird photography. That was brilliant. Wright on the School of Photography stand gave a fantastic talk around dew, mostly, and macro insects. Really insightful. And then we saw Jack Lodge on the Sunday on the Canon Super Stage, and he gave a run through about how he sets up his cameras for autofocus. But then he mentioned that he was given a bit of a post-processing to print workshop on the Canon stage in the afternoon. So we attended that, and that was really interesting. He edited a Fox image in Lightroom Classic, and then sent it to a big Canon printer and printed it out, something like A2, A1, big size. And my friend who was with me actually was brave enough to go and see him at the end of the show and grab the print, which was really nice. He came home with a Jack Lodge print. In terms of the manufacturers and gear, one of the biggest things that kind of stuck out for me was who was not there rather than who was there. DJI were missing, Vanguard, who typically have a really nice big stage in the past with, they make excellent bags, tripods, accessories. They weren't there. Camera Weld, as I mentioned in my sort of pre-show video that I did, not there. And Olmec Papers, who kind of slipped under the radar. I didn't sort of realise, looking at the exhibitor list, that they weren't going to be there. So that was a real shame, because they normally have a really nice selection of printer paper, and it's reasonably priced as well. So that was a real shame. There was lots of show floor space that was empty. Behind the Canon stage was kind of the end of the show floor, where you had a food hall and toilets, and there was a vast empty space. I was really surprised. It just sort of highlighted that the show floor had shrunk. And this kind of evident in some of the talks that we attended as well. Lowry and Wright, for examples, those stands had so few seats, like half a dozen seats, that a lot of people were standing, and you kind of think, well, could the space that was being wasted not be utilised? And there didn't seem to be fewer print exhibitions this year. There were some, and they were fantastic as ever, but maybe they could have utilised some of the space more. And some of the stands, as ever, had models on that you could take pictures, which is fantastic. But because the stands were still quite tightly packed together, I mean, there were times where you literally could not get down an aisle because there were hordes of photographers gathering around to try and take pictures or listening to the talk. So maybe the space could have been utilised a little bit better. And I won't name any names, but as ever, there were a few stands that were just not photography related at all, and just had no interest to me. But I understand that the organisers just want to sell the space. The Creator Playground, which started a couple of years ago now, doesn't really interest me too much. It's a bit of, I get it's a bit of fun, but it just kind of feels a little bit gimmicky to me. It does feel some floor space. I'm sure loads of people will enjoy it, but it's not something for me. The show deals, in terms of gear and the show deals, I felt I wasn't in the market to buy, a camera or anything like that, but I did think from what I observed, looking at the prices, primarily looking at Canon because that's the system that I'm in. I thought the show deals were quite competitive, so if you were in the market for spending a big sum of money, there were savings to be had. So overall it was, I had a great time. It was great to be back. I do think going forwards, the show does need to change, evolve, because I think in the current format there is a danger that it's not working. For some reason, exhibitors are not returning to the show. I've listed a few already, so maybe there's an opportunity to change it. Maybe there needs to be more of a focus, 2 speakers, stroke kind of workshops, and maybe the exhibitors could be helped a little bit by the show organisers. Some of the obviously exhibitors are paying for space, and I'm guessing that's not particularly cheap. But the School of Photography was a great example with Oliver Wright. He's a great speaker. There just wasn't enough seating there. Could the organisers help by saying, look, if you're going to dedicate X amount of space on your stand to your talks, we'll subsidise, we'll discount that space, so more seats could be filled. And a return of the super stage, and I've said it before, but Charlie Waite as an example, he could have filled the seating area for that fundamental stage that he filled probably 4 or 5 times over. I mean, he's so popular. Utilising the space more for some more print exhibitions, if you can't fill the show floors, and I know you still need to find people that are going to print and invest that money to do it, but I do feel like some of the space could have been better utilised. Back at XL for next year for London, hopefully going to go. I'm now in 2 minds whether it's a 2-day visit really. I think if it was at the NEC next year, I'd still do the 2 days just because there's not an awful lot around the NEC. But being in London, I'm kind of thinking, 1 day at the show and maybe a day of photography around London would be a better use of the time. So hopefully, they normally do ask for some feedback to show. I will be giving my feedback, and we'll see how the show evolves going forward. But overall, still, really enjoyed it. It's great to listen to some great speakers, just be involved in photography for a couple of days. So until next time, goodbye.